Good afternoon from yammybtv. Wishing you all well, sending loads of love, hoping your day's going the best it possibly can, and I love you all dearly. Can't even lift up my shoulders to throw a punch these days, the injuries and all that. That's what a life of prison done to me. But just to tell you that I'm feeling much, much better. I give it another day or two and I'll be back on form. But some really serious questions coming in today. I like you lot asking me certain questions because, with the processing of the brain, I need jogging sometimes about, getting things into order because I don't write things down or script anything. Uncle Yammy does it. He just comes up and he just talks. But the little man syndrome, it's really strange, right? Not so much you didn't say little man syndrome, but I'll go into that bit, as well as the question of what happens when you're not in the mix, whether you're smaller and you ain't got muscles and you're not a bad man in that way. You might have done some crimes or whatever, but you're in jail mixing with other men now because it's really like a jungle, especially in the high risk security. That there's the belief that maybe some probably get picked on, and more than likely many do in some sort of ways. But the older lot compared with the new lot would definitely 80-90% of them, they see somebody smaller who hasn't done anything wrong, they would come and say, "Oi, leave it alone." And that's what I saw. Very, very good morals and scruples, if you like. And those are murderers, ex-murderers, or bad men, allegedly, that have fired guns and shot people. And, they're not so bad when it comes to things like that, if you could put it that way, because I witnessed it myself. But then if you're going to be smaller and you're going to be shouting from the ones all the way up, "Oh, you don't fucking know, don't this," and start swearing and everything, and everyone's listening and that, then you might leave the person no choice. But bullying does happen, but the bigger lot, if it's for no reason, they won't stand by and let it. But I suppose it depends a little bit on who the person is as well. Even if that person, though, I've seen who doesn't know anybody, who's all alone or whatever, more so older men who've been in it, the long tooth of it, would say, "Oh, hey, mate, drop that out. That ain't right." You know what I mean? We've got the famous one where they all come on the landing, or one's on the landing and he's worried about another man in the kitchen who's a bad man. But he's got some problems with him, but it's kind of on edge and ice. They might have had a little seesaw ting-tong with some exchanging of words. So they shout over to say, "Oh, you, shut, oi, don't," so that the other person can hear. So you're right. The belittling to make themselves look good, finding weaker targets. I remember many times along the years, it's been a few, I don't know, I've held my hands up, guilty as charged, when I've been told I've had a hit to do and I like the person and I don't want to do it. And, grandma, whatever, Yammy, my mind tells me, and then I've done the wrong thing in the moral code of the street by telling the person, "Listen, mate," the man approaches me and says, "Yammy, I'll give you an Henry 8 or whatever. Would you do this?" And yeah, we know how I was. Give me that. But for me to want to go and kill a man for that, it's a little bit, sometimes I've done it. I ain't gonna lie. We've said that, but there were times when I told someone, I'm afraid, "Listen, mate, you better run off on protection, because I'm gonna have to do you or whatever." And he thanks you, I mean, he legs it. So then I'd go back and say, no, he's gone. And I said, "When did he go? How did I not?" Yeah, what about the kid? "I'll do something for you another time," kind of thing. So I've even taken that scummy, bad little move and done things like that, I'm afraid to tell you. But because I didn't want to do it. I'd do it desperately if, say, he was holding on to it, he was holding on to whatever I wanted, and then I would wait. If he wouldn't put it in my hand, because, you say, "Gives a few up front and I'll go and do the job," and that kind of thing. But if he doesn't put it in my hand and I can't duck and dive and swerve left and right, then, there's been times when I have to, because then I've run up on people and immediately after doing a bout of violence, run back, quickly get out their hand in case the screws will come and get my thing and go. But it's very, very double-edged sword question, because the hierarchy We talk about that today. It's funny you ask that question as well. The pecking order from the known criminals, the ones that have been in the spotlight with their crimes, or, you know, we talk about Charlie Bronson, he was down to Seg. We know that he was the greatest with that, with the screws and the officers, and if we like, you know, fighting all day long and doing 10 of them and all that kind of stuff. Can never be denied. Can never be denied, because he has. But when the question's asked about who's the baddest and all that kind of thing, you can't be the baddest man. Say that you was the hardest man if you're not on normal location. It's not really realistic, you know, that you could get that thing, but I still say you're one of the greatest in that life, if you get what I mean. And we know Uncle Yammy by now, we know what I mean by it by now. But again, the hierarchy, innit? Think about the drug dealers that get 20 years and they're Cat A's. I think I met that good geezer, Brian Wright. I think that's his name. Curly head guy, fit geezer, we used to run with Ian. I forgot his name, Ian, brilliant footballer. They were doing 20 odd years each for drugs. And that Brian Wright, and that, where do they stand? You know what? The murderers and, you know, the ones that, you know, have taken people's lives, and how do they sit in that chain of the pecking order? Because you have all the big names, and it is strange that a lot of them say hello, there's respect, but where would the drug dealers fit in somewhere with that? Because they're not firing off the gun. It doesn't mean that they're not a bad man in that life we're talking, remember. But, you know, is it the connections? Yeah, all right, when I get out, you link me and I'll do this with them, because you can get a bit, they've got the link to that kind of thing. That's common knowledge, just the way that it works, isn't it? Prison's a breeding ground for educational, more money, successful, whatever way you want to look at it, bigger crimes of value and things. But I don't think murdering somebody wise is money-wise or whatever. It's all part of that game where these things are going to come up, because everybody's wants their status. So a bad man, 2 killers fight, Uncle Yammy always said, no one wins. Because if you're both the same minded, which I say from what I saw and told John, you know, all the different names that we ever knew talk to each other. Yeah, you're right, sweet. It doesn't mean that they're besties. They just met each other and think there's a boundary line between some of them where you don't want to get too close to a well-known name and get someone say the wrong thing and it's going to go off, because it's going to get very, very serious. And with the way that some used to think about themselves in the bigger picture, somebody they're not shown to be defending, you know, and making show, and, you know, the respect from others. Listen, oh, he took that. You know what I mean? There's been some names, you know, in the past that good fighters, well, big names and that, but they've suffered defeats as well. But some of them hold it well and come back again and, you know, thing and that, because we know that fighting can go either way sometimes. It's on the day. That's why I always laugh at the greatest kind of talk, if you get what I mean. But then a 20-year-old, you know, I found also in that life, like a man who turned, yeah, he's got loads of money and da-da-da. But then I found in some of those big cases that the gear isn't exactly theirs. So they might get the headlines and blah, 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 but they get their first on the indictment thing because they're the ones who have got it. You see what I mean? But don't mean that they're the big man behind the scenes, though. I'm saying to you, out of 50% of that thing, so a lot of were couriers, you know. But out there, they say, no, they were this, they were that. He had 100 kilo brought in from blah, blah, blah. What was his part in it? Did a man tell him, here, mate, go and do that, collect that boat, go and get 100 kilo, bring boom, 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 you have that, we'll have that, blah, blah, blah. Still might have come from somewhere else. Because in my view, if you was the big man in the chain of that drug thing again, you wouldn't be the one holding the gear. It's my view, not absolutely certified, but it doesn't, why often you find it, they won't put their hands on nothing. So the only other way of doing it is a conspiracy where the police are going to be tracking your phones and whatnot and all that kind of stuff. And it's led to believe that you are So it's a conspiracy charge, and they know that you're the big man. They would have to prove that. And there are big drug smugglers, but do they fit into the, do they get picked on or they get thing or whatever? It's all the same, all of it. I saw little men. I've seen many upsets in life where a man's expected to win, and a man that no one notices every day. I used to tell you lot in the old days when I first went to the Cat A's, there's a lot of old grey-haired men that shuffle past every day, and you don't notice them because I'm running up and down, and there's a chain of us lot, the ones that are on the front page in the mix, because we talk to him, I talk to him, he talks to him, he needs that, can you bring that? We'll bring that round. But what am I talking about? The little man can cause the upsets. He could be nobody, and I've seen it with my own eyes. But the old values and scruples and morals with the bullying thing seem to have died a little bit, to be honest. Because you're even in that life, you still get the odd so-called bigger man who might pressure a little man into doing something. It's a different way of doing it. Wait, do you reckon you can bring that? And you would do that, and you can have that, and listen, I'll do that, and it's power struggles. And, everybody's got to be used for different roles. It's all different unless you're a one-man crime wave, which is the way that I did it, because I only ever had one co-defendant all my life. And that was on the 13, and he grasped me. Imagine that. Fact. So I've never actually been in gangs and things outside. I knew everybody, but I wasn't into that kind of stuff. I've had the gun, I've had the knife, I've had that kind of stuff. But basically, all the time, really, for those short periods outside, I was a man who was just one-man crime wave. Just do whatever I do, Terminator, big muscles, adrenaline rush, look at me, how do you feel? We've gone into all that already. But it's interesting as well, it's got to be said, that the big names sometimes, they don't really, some, not all we know, that they don't like each other. Have that one. How many did he give you? I mean, I'll give you 5 then if he gave you 3. You know what I mean? But they wake up every morning and go, yeah, sweet, mate, and all right. Doesn't mean that you're liked. I found a lot of times in life that they get on, some of them, but I would be more closer to them more than they would to them. So it's characters. And some of the men you meet in that life, must be said, some lovely men, I've spoken about a few of them, and you hear about them and read about them, but when you actually see them, and talk to them and get involved, the emotional, the sentimental, the sensitivity and the feelings of love, the connections. Why, we asked ourselves, do some inmates, while they're in there, love each other more in that way, and then bring it to the roads, or more protective over you, or more, because it's the knowing. I know what you're thinking and feeling. A man once told me, right, I'd say, so you got Pat there, Tony, yeah, I said, yeah, sweet. I feel the love, connection. Charlie Bronson from the window, yeah, even close. A couple of little early on bits as well, but I don't name as close as like some of the other ones I've named. You see what I mean? But some of the love that I felt was really deep. Why is it then that some others, because Tony said, John, everybody would tell you say, oh, but I don't like his energy's a bit off, And I say, yeah, really, you know what I mean? It's just different elements to things. They're not so given to everybody. Probably a bit smarter than me, actually, because I would say 75% of all the big names that you hear about, I think, very much alone, don't really do a lot of talking in there, to be honest. And it's not all of them where they feel that love, because the dark energies of some people, the mistrust of some people, or the game playing even. The game playing of whose position, who's going to be of value at such times when blah, 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 blah. It's a chain, isn't it? The reliability on some of the guys that I really got close to, and it's very, very deep, how it works. Because in others, he likes him, but he can't feel him, or doesn't really want to, he doesn't really feel, or like we say, the value, what you bring into the table, what can I learn from? Because they're very, very dangerous places. You want to know if someone's turned up over there and someone's going to, because you're not in the mix all the time, but you want someone to say, yeah, what's his name here, you know? Yeah, be careful. All right, get the talk, you know, because they're not out there running around like me, because then you've got that level there of the double A's or the A's who've been away for too long, kind of thing. And then you've got other quiet bad men, quiet, who just move on their own, and but all of a sudden they come out the woodwork when there's trouble and do the business. And they're not the glamorous ones that everybody talks about or feels about, but they're often forgotten. But they're on par with them, but maybe not as known in jail the way that they are. And then you've got the other level down below, the soldiers, from the colonels and the generals, me, you know, the halfers, the midnights, you know, all the things, all the men that run around, who are of value to those bigger ones, who are not scared to get nicked or get adjudications and segregation and that kind of stuff. We fall into that tree, so we're not the big men. We're kind of like the runners, but bigger people would use me or use things for certain things, but there's others running around like me who they wouldn't ask to do the job, so they all, you know, get in close with them like that. It would be me then teaming up with one of my lot to go and, yeah, come, I've just got a bit of work to do, go and do that. But he never told me to go and get him, kind of thing. I think I've been talking a bit too long. But it's a funny subject, but it's a real, you know what I mean? Is it real? I don't know. It's an edgy, tense. I've been on a room where everything's dead quiet. No one's saying nothing. And everyone doesn't know what to say. And the charismatic Pat, you know, all the lively one, Tony, really lively, happy-go-lucky Tony, in some sense, but on his own most of the time. Oh, yeah, great, isn't it? And all the jokes that go with it. You know, Kenny, tell all of them, always see them, always on their own. We'll have a little bit, a flutter, whatever, and keep it straight, keep it moving. I'm not going to go and tell you where everything's buried and all that. It doesn't work that way. Very mistrustful, because, you know, there's been many that have been bugged in cells and they slip little things and vices in where they can gather and you can get nicked, and that is very true, and it's happened as well. So everybody's a bit para, especially when you are an AA, because you have to go on the phone, all your calls are monitored and blah, blah, blah. So they know where they're at with you. So some people can't even be themselves on the phone. Can you believe that? I have to mind, oh shit, I can't say remember before, because mobiles in the cat is very, very hard. Not like, you know, some of the other jails where they're passed around very, very freely. You won't hold on to a mobile phone too long in the ACATs, I believe. You know, so I hope I answered the question. I just got into a right thing. I know I could have said really more, but I'm coming up to, again, for part 2 of when I was getting released from that, what I talked about yesterday, the day when they were waiting, the day when my release date came. They were coming to get me, thinking that I might be thinking, etc., that they're forgotten or they're not doing nothing about it. But in that life, when you have done the things that I do, very, very little sleep, you're always thinking, always getting ready. It could be today, because the minute you go, oh shit, relax, everything's cool, I've seen it too many times. Can't turn your back on or live with in the same housing unit or the same block as a person you violated for too long. I'd be too edgy to do it. Even if I had a fight with him or whatever, all right, got splitted up or whatever, or I choked him, whatever, in that life, and you, all right, we'll squash it now, peace, all right, but I would still be thinking, are you going to come for me? It's very, very tense, because the minute you drop your guard, it could be all over. I'm coming back up in a minute, sending loads of love.